everybody, welcome to day 2 of our fractions unit. If you remember from yesterday, we already started with this anchor chart and we specifically were looking at how to write fractions based on a model. So we looked at models, we wrote them in unit form, and then we wrote them in fraction form. Today we're going to kick it up a notch by remembering and reviewing how to use a number bond to represent fractions. So our I can statement for today is, I can distinguish between unshaded and shaded fractions by using a number bond. Before we do that though, let's go ahead and jump into our fluency. We did a little bit of this last week, so I would like to do some more this week on rounding. So remember, go ahead, pause me, go get a piece of paper, a pencil, whiteboard, marker, whatever you may have at home. I'm also gonna give you guys a heads up. My cat may be joining our lesson today. She loves laptops. So I'm gonna do my best. Say hi. All right, here we go. Go ahead and write, let's round to the nearest 10 first. And let's get down 3 numbers. Let's do 96, 355, and 1,749. Now, rounding to the nearest 10 means we should go ahead and underline the tens place. So let's underline the tens place in our first number, and we look next door. Does the 6 tell me to round up or down? 5 or more, raise the score. So I'm going to round up. That means my 9 is actually going to go up to a 10, which means I now would round to 100. Look at our next one. Round to the nearest 10, underline our tens place, look next door. My 5 in the ones place tells me to raise the score, so this 5 is going to go up to a 6, 360. Next one, 1,749. Again, underline that tens place, look next door. My 9 tells me to raise the score. So my other digits stay the same, 1,700. My 4 is going to become a 5, 1,750. Now let's do a few where we round to the nearest 100. Let's do 803, 1,699, and 2,807. Now, this time we're rounding to the nearest 100, so let's underline that hundreds digit. Look next door. My 0, does that tell me to raise the score or let it rest? 4 or less, let it rest. So it's going to stay as a 0, so 803 rounds to 800. Next one, 1,699, underline my hundreds digit, look next door. My 9 tells me to raise the score, so this 6 is going to go up to a 7. So that means it's going to be 1,700. Last one, here we go. Underline our hundreds place. Look next door. That 0 tells me to let it rest, so it becomes 2,800. Great job. Let's go ahead and review what we know about number bonds. We've talked about number bonds in 3rd grade math in a ton of different ways. We've used number bonds, well, first in 2nd grade to represent part, whole. So we would have a number bond like this. This would be our whole, and these were our 2 parts. So if I gave you 10 and one part was 7, you would know my other part would have to be what can add to 7 to make 10. So 7, 8, 9, 10. Missing part is 3. We've also done number bonds with multiplication where we turned it into repeated addition. So if I had 12 and 4 groups, I think 4 groups of what makes 12? Well, I know 4, 8, 12. 4 groups of 3. 3, 6, 9, 12. Now, we also talked about fractions, using fractions in number bonds. So we've worked on how our whole is always a 1. And then we can add 2 parts of a fraction to make the whole. So for example, let's say that my whole is really, let's draw a model. I'm going to draw a rectangle, and let's partition it into thirds. And I'm going to shade one part. So I know right now my whole is equal to how many thirds makes a whole? 1, 2, 3 thirds. So 1 whole is equal to 3 thirds. Now, if I shaded one part of my number bond could be 1/3. And then my other part of my number bond would be the unshaded part, which what fraction is this? 2/3. Which would mean that if we added 1/3 plus 2/3, that would equal 3/3. So let's look at a couple of examples from our anchor chart yesterday of how we can put these into number bonds. So we're going to go back to our first picture, and I know this shape is partitioned into what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. So that means my 1 whole is equal to 6/6. I'm just going to write that outside of the number bond. And I'm going to bring my camera a little bit closer so that you guys can see. Then I'm going to put in my first part my shaded fraction. So I can look at my picture. I see 2 out of 6 parts are shaded. So my first part is 2/6. And then what fraction is unshaded? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4/6. Which would mean 2/6 plus 4/6 equals 1 whole, or 6/6. Let's do our next one. My 1 whole is equal to how many parts? 1, 2, 3, 4 fourths. What fraction is shaded? 3 fourths. And then what fraction is unshaded? Over here I see just 1 out of 4 parts is not shaded, which would mean 3 fourths plus 1/4 makes 1 whole, or 4 fourths. Our next one, what do we notice about our shape, is partitioned into what? Thirds. So that would mean 1 whole is equal to 3 thirds. I have 1/3 that's shaded. And then my fraction that is unshaded, I see 2 parts, 2 thirds. 1/3 plus 2 thirds makes 3 thirds. Now let's do our last one. We said this one was a bit of a larger shape. I see 14 down here, which means this is partitioned into 14 parts. So 1 whole equals 14 fourteenths. 8 fourths were already shaded. Or not 8 fourths, excuse me, 8 fourteenths. And then that means my other part would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fourteenths. And just like that, we can see how easy it actually is to use a number bond to represent fractions. I want to go ahead and show you guys your classwork for today, so that way we can just quickly go over what it looks like and how you can complete it at home. So here is your paper. Again, remember, if you don't have a printer, that is totally fine. You can just literally write number 1, 2, and 3A and 3B, and just draw them on your own. And what the directions say is, show a number bond representing what is shaded and unshaded in each of the figures. Draw a different visual model that would be represented by the same number bond. In other words, what they're asking is, after you do the number bond, show 5/8, for example, for this one, in a different way. That's all it means. I'm not super worried about showing the other model. Honestly, I really am concerned about the number bonds. So really focus on the number bonds. If you don't draw the other model, it's okay. So on number 1, you'll draw a number bond, your 2 parts. You'll label your first part of this, which is the shaded fraction. So I see this is out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so 3/5, and then unshaded, 2/5. And we know that 3/5 plus 2/5 equals 1 whole, or 5/5. So that is it for today. I can't wait to see your classwork later. As always, please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.